Hey, it's Grant here today, and today I'm going to be talking to you about wheels and tyres, but more specifically for your caravan and camper trailer. We're going to share some information and a couple of tips along the way. Okay, I said to you I was going to talk to you about wheels and tyres, yet here I am at the front of this A-frame on this caravan. And why am I here? I want to talk to you about this plate here. This is the VOR Compliance Plate put on here by the manufacturer. Now, when it comes to making a chassis, the chassis people are the ones that make the decision in regards to the load that this van can carry. Therefore, the axle is set up accordingly, and then from there they make the recommendations for the wheels that can go on it. So on this plate, you will see the load that the axles are at. From there, they'll tell you what size wheel and tyre can go on it. And lastly, they'll put the rating of that wheel and tyre, and followed by the recommended PSI. So when it comes to selecting wheels and tyres for your van, you need to start here at this plate to make sure that you comply. Okay, armed with the information from the compliance plate, the next step is to look at the rims. What type of rims can we have on our caravans and campers? Now, this particular caravan came with these rims. These rims have been load rated to suit this particular van and carry the load that's needed. But what if you wanted to change them? One of the popular things we're seeing is try to match these wheels with your car. But let me warn you, it's not that simple. The rims actually have a load rating. For example, this is an OE rim, and this rim is designed to go on a vehicle and carry the loads there. If you had a very heavy caravan and you tried to put that rim on it, you wouldn't comply. You then go to an aftermarket rim. Now this is an aftermarket rim, this is a big wheel. This one actually goes on our camper and matches our car. And I know that the load rating on this rim can carry it. In this case, how do I know that? Well, it's a case of looking at the manufacturer's information. Most manufacturers that produce aftermarket wheels will have a table of some sort that'll have load ratings and information on it. So it's important before you just go changing your wheels and tyres, you know the correct load rating to suit the axles. Having now got the right load rated rim, it's important that we now get the right load rated tyre. Tyres are rated in a letter format. In this case here, this one's an E. I think the ones on our van over there are a C. Now, what does that mean? It's important that you then refer that to the manufacturers. They make charts, and those charts explain what load it can carry at a certain PSI. And at the same time, they also give it a speed rating. So that information we now can make sure that we're selecting the right tyres to suit our application. Okay, 2 tools that I will not leave home without. First one being a pressure gauge. Now the pressure gauge you use naturally to check your tyre pressures. But how do you know what is the right tyre pressure for your tyre and application? Yes, the information from the compliance plate is a starting point along with the manufacturer's recommendation. So set your tyres to that. I would suggest a good rule of thumb check that you can do. Check your tyre pressures, get them all even first thing in the morning. Then drive for about an hour, stop and check them again. If they've increased around about 4 to 5 PSI, then I would say your tyre pressures are pretty well where they need to be. If they've increased greater, then we actually need to put more air in. If they haven't increased as much, then we need to take some air out. That's a good rule of thumb tip to use with your tyre pressure gauge. The next tool is a torque wrench. Yes, a torque wrench. Why do I suggest a torque wrench? Because you can do these wheel nuts up and you don't really know what level you've done them up. Worse still, you could have had them done by a rattle gun at a garage and they could have over-torqued them. Now, when you're travelling, take this with you. I would suggest if you're on corrugated roads, make it a daily practice to initially check the wheel nuts and check the torque setting against the manufacturer's recommendation. If you're on bitumen roads, maybe once a week. But knowing exactly that your wheel nuts are done up, knowing that you've got the right tyre pressures, you're well on the way to looking after your wheels and tyres and having a safe journey. So I just spoke about tyre pressures and using your tyre gauge. One thing that's a little bit better is using a TPMS system. So a tyre pressure monitoring system. Now, the way they work, they come in different varieties and different types. This one here is an Oricon one, and it comes with an external sensor that screws onto the tyre like so. Now, once that's on there, that sends an RF message through to a controller. That controller sits, in this case, on my dashboard, and it'll display instantaneously the tyre pressure. It also shows heat, and the great thing about it is you can set alarms on it. So if the tyre starts to leak for whatever reason, perhaps you've got a puncture or a slow leak, it's going to let you know you're going to be able to pull over in time and be able to do something to this tyre or whatever tyre's leaking and prevent a nasty accident occurring. So should it happen and we get a slow leak or a puncture starts to happen, what you want to do is pull over as quickly as you can in a safe, flat area and then start to diagnose it. In our case, if you've got that tyre sensor, it's going to tell you exactly which wheel it is, whether it's this side, that one, it could be this one here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to attempt to have a look at why it is and where it might be leaking. Now, it's not going to be that easy to find sometimes because it could be in the centre of the tread, it could be on the other side. So a soap solution. Mix up a soap solution, spray that on the wheels, you know, where it is. You'll get an air bubble and you'll be able to see it. You can then use a tyre repair kit. There's many different types of kits around. You may have seen it where you use the bitch mastic, you pierce it, you put it in and you actually plug the tyre. That way you're not having to take the wheel off, you know, and you're going to be able to keep moving until you can get into the next town and get it repaired. Of course, you're going to need a compressor. Now that portable compressor is fine. You usually might carry that in your car. You plug it in and get going. However, if you get to a point where, look, you got no choice but you're going to have to change it, you're then going to have to get these wheel nuts off. In the past, I used to carry a wheel brace. It works, but it can be hard going, particularly if these wheels haven't come off for some time. These days, I would suggest you get yourself a decent breaker bar. This folds up to a small section, pull it out. You've got plenty of room to get the leverage on and pull it. Make sure that the socket will fit into your area, and then you're going to be able to get those wheel nuts off, jack it up and do the wheel change. So that will, in our case, keeps us going in the event of that we should get a puncture. Our final tip to keep and get the maximum usage out of our tyres is rotation. We like to rotate our tyres, including the spare, around about every 10,000 Ks. That way we're evenly moving the tyres around and we're getting the best wear factor we can. And at that time, it's a good chance to be able to inspect the tyre, check the tread, see where it's all at, and that way we're going to continue to get the best results out of our wheels and tyres on our caravan and campers.